Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Kellianne, and if you're new here, thank you so much for watching this video. Today is a gorgeous snow day in New York City, so I figure since I won't be going outside anyway, this might be a good time to sit down and record my apartment hunting video. I've had a few requests and questions about how I found my apartment, and I have definitely wanted to make this video too. I've been in my new apartment for a little over a week now, and with all of the stress and the hecticness of moving in, I haven't had time to do this yet, so I'm very excited to be finally making this video. A little background information about me. In 2020, I was living and working in Tokyo, and unfortunately, due to the pandemic, I lost my job in August. So the company that I worked for flew me back home to LA, where I spent a couple of months living with my mom, trying to, honestly, first and foremost, grieve losing my job, and second of all, try to figure out what was next for me. It was a total blank slate. I could have gone in any direction, but I really knew that I wanted to move back to New York City. So I have lived here previously, but I moved away to move to Tokyo and then back to LA, so I did have to actually make the decision to move here again. So of course, right now in New York City, Broadway is shut down. There's not a lot of jobs to be had, but one of the main reasons that I really wanted to come to New York City right now is that you may or may not know this already, but the real estate prices have been absolutely plummeting because of the pandemic. And for the first time ever, I felt like, oh my gosh, I think I could afford living on my own, which is my dream. So just to get an idea of what I have lived in the past, at what price point, my most recent New York City apartment was in Washington Heights. I had 3 other roommates, I had my own room, and I shared a bathroom, and I paid $1,100. So I figured if I just spend a couple hundred extra dollars, I could have my own place. I know some people genuinely love living with roommates, and I have had some great roommates in the past, but I'm also a classic definition introvert. I love going out and having fun with people, but when I come back home, my home is really the place that I rest and recharge. So it's always been my dream to have my own place in New York City, and spoiler alert, I now have that. Months ago, back in LA, I started looking at Street Easy, which is an apartment searching app, and I found it so user-friendly and also addicting. It became one of the things that I looked at every single day, like Instagram, Facebook, Street Easy. You can refine your search to the price that you're looking for and what kind of apartment you're looking for, and by area as well. So it's so easy to search around. And I loved favoriting apartments that I liked and then going back to check what price it ended up going for. Doing this was not only fun, but it gave me a really good idea of what was out there at what price and what I was looking for. I will say that I also did look at Craigslist. I know some people have found amazing apartments on Craigslist, and I wasn't opposed to it, but I do kind of prefer going through something a little bit more professional and trustworthy like Street Easy. Oh, another thing I did was I watched a bunch of videos from Cash Jordan on YouTube. If you don't know him, you have to check him out. He's a New York City real estate agent. So he shows a bunch of apartment tours, and he also talks about trends in real estate, which is extremely interesting right now because everything is changing. So by doing those 3 things, Street Easy, Craigslist, Cash Jordan, I was able to really figure out like what were my non-negotiable things I was looking for. First of all, price point wise, I was looking for something under $1,500, a studio or a 1-bedroom. Believe it or not, there are 1-bedrooms under $1,500 right now. And up until now, if I said I was looking for a studio apartment for $1,500 in Manhattan, everybody would think I was crazy because that has not been a thing until now. Obviously, the pandemic has been horrible, but personally, this has been the one upside. I was able to afford something that I would have never been able to afford. My non-negotiable things that I was looking for was, number 1, I wanted an apartment that was not on the 1st floor. I know it's probably fine, but just for my peace of mind, I like to be at least 1 floor above street level, just so I know that someone can't walk right up to my window where I sleep right next to the window. Number 2, I was looking for and this may sound crazy, but a full-size fridge. I saw so many listings for apartments that had either a mini fridge or no fridge and no kitchen whatsoever. I just feel like it's not really that much to ask. Also, I'm not a student anymore. Like, I am a full adult and I need a full refrigerator. And the last thing that I was really looking for and was really important to me was the windows. Ideally, I was looking for more than one window with a lot of natural light in the whole apartment, and also a street view. Now, I know that back-facing apartments are generally quieter and that works better for some people, but for me, I'm more willing to have a noisy apartment with a street view. I love to wake up in the mornings and open my curtains and see the world going by, check the weather, people watch. That's just my thing. It makes me feel like I'm in the city. Of course, there were other things that were not quite non-negotiables, but would really make me be like, I love this place. And those things would be exposed brick, nice hardwood floors, new and updated appliances, but those things were totally not mandatory to me. So if you're thinking about moving to New York City, but it's months away, these are things you can start doing right now, and it's honestly really fun. So the other thing that I prepared while still in LA was the documents that I needed to apply to an apartment. I read a ton of articles online about what sort of documents you need to rent an apartment in New York City, and I prepared almost all of them. And this was a lot of work considering that I also was gonna use my mom as a guarantor, so I needed all of those documents from her as well. But I was really happy when it came down to applying for the apartment, because the faster you can get your application in, the better. You might not have all the documents you need, and by the time you gather them, the apartment is gone. I will tell you once I get to the application process for the apartment I applied for what documents I actually needed, because I really over-prepared. Over-preparing's not a bad thing, that's just like in my character. I got so many documents. So I moved to New York City on January 5th, and it took some time to take care of quarantining, COVID testing, so by the time I was actually ready to start going out and viewing apartments, it was January 11th. So I had in my mind that I would get an apartment for February 1st. And turns out I am absolutely shocked at how fast real estate moves here. It literally happened in the blink of an eye. On Monday, I went on Street Easy and I messaged a bunch of people and I made appointments for the next day. On Tuesday, I went to those open houses. On Wednesday, I applied for the apartment I liked and got it. And on Thursday, I signed the lease and got the keys. So within 4 days, this whole process was over. So with all of that background information out of the way, let's look at the apartment tours. The first apartment that I looked at on my 1 day of apartment hunting was, spoiler, the apartment that I ended up getting. I wish that I could be like, save the best for last, and the last one was the one that was perfect, but that's just not how it happened. So this apartment was in Hell's Kitchen. The gross rent was $14.90 with a net effective rent of $13.84 because there was 1 month free on a 14-month lease. So this is something that a lot of apartments are offering right now. They're like, oh, well, instead of lowering the price down, we'll offer a free month or 2 or 3, which would offset the cost. You still do have to pay the gross rent, but at the end of your lease, you'll get a free month or a couple. I also know that some apartments will let you pay the net effective rent for all of the months of the lease if you just figure that out with them. Unfortunately, my apartment said no when I asked to do that. So I walked into this apartment and immediately my jaw dropped, because the first thing you see when you walk in is this stunning wall of exposed brick, an old fireplace, the 2 windows with the fire escape, the gorgeous hardwood floors. I just knew that I was in love with this apartment. I took a look at the kitchen and the bathroom. I walked around the apartment a couple times. I chatted with the real estate agent. And as an added plus, there was a dishwasher, which was pretty exciting. The big appeal of this apartment for me was the windows, the amazing natural light, the exposed brick wall. I loved how big and open it felt, and I really loved the location. So I left this viewing and I was honestly shaking and smiling ear to ear, but I had other appointments that day, so I obviously went to them, so let's talk about those appointments. The next apartment I saw was in Kips Bay, and it was actually listed as a 1-bedroom. The gross rent was $14.95, and the net effective rent was $13.70 with 1 month free on a 12-month lease. I guess I couldn't really tell from their listing on StreetEasy that this apartment was on the ground floor, which was kind of one of my non-negotiable things. So once I showed up, I was already like, ooh, this is not my apartment. But to add on to that, I didn't really like the area. I had never been to Kips Bay before, and it just didn't really speak to me or call to me. And I did feel like the apartment was just one long hallway, and that was a little bit odd. I don't really love having to walk through the kitchen area to get to the bathroom. Plus, there was no real living room area. Like, what were you supposed to do with that kind of entryway with the shelf thing on the wall? But it was pretty much a no for me once I saw it was on the ground floor. I told the real estate agent, I said, you know, I have to say honestly, like, this is just not my apartment. And he was like, all right, no worries, and I went along my merry way. The next apartment I saw was in Chelsea, which sounds amazing, but you guys, this was the weirdest, worst apartment I've ever seen in my life. I don't even know why I wanted to see this in person, but once I arrived, I was like, oh no, what have I done? I did not even take a video of this apartment, so I screen recorded their listing on StreetEasy so I could show it to you now. Listen, their listing on StreetEasy said, you have a private entrance. Well, a private entrance means there's a door to your bedroom on the main street. I just have to say that as a woman, I don't feel comfortable with that. If you do, more power to you, but personally that was just not something I was open to. But as for the price, it was $1,500 gross rent, $13.85 net effective with 1 month free on a 13-month lease. I also kind of thought that the tiling throughout the whole apartment was weird, and it was extremely dark. There were windows that looked out onto an alleyway. The vibes were just off. And I told the real estate agent, who was a woman, I said, you know what? I don't think I would feel safe here. And she said, honestly, I would not recommend that a woman live here, so I totally understand. The next apartment I saw was in the East Village, and this was a bit of a weird experience. The real estate agent that I had been communicating with didn't make it clear to me that he wasn't gonna be there, and when I called him, he was mad at me, and he actually kind of yelled at me, which made me 100% not want to even view this apartment. But basically, he said he just left the door open and wanted me to just go in. So I did. I'm just such a people person that I feel like I have to like the real estate agent, and the fact that this guy was mad at me was a huge turn off to me. But also, this place was just not really what I was looking for. I didn't really like that the fridge was kind of in the main living area, and I didn't like that the windows were back facing. But that's the thing, is you don't really know until you're in the space in person, and you can see it so much clearer. And then you know, oh, this isn't even close to what I'm looking for. The next apartment I saw was in Manhattanville, which I had never heard of, but it's basically like between Upper West Side and Hamilton Heights, I guess. So their listing on StreetEasy said that it was $14.65 flat, but once I arrived, I found out that that was the net effective rent, and that the gross rent was like $2,000. So that was pretty off-putting to me, but I saw the apartments anyway. This apartment was in a luxury building, and again, I didn't know that this was not what I was looking for until I saw it in person. It was really nice. There was a doorman, there was a laundry room, a package room. It was very much a community vibe. I passed a bunch of people in the hallways, but it was a huge building, and I would have been one of thousands of people. Okay, that's probably overestimating. Hundreds? 1,000? I'm not sure. But I mean, the apartment was absolutely stunning. The view was incredible. It was updated with like cool appliances and the sink and the kitchen and the bathroom. But I also will say, and I won't show it to you, but I went into the bathroom and there was like really bad poop stains on the toilet, which was like, why would you show me this dirty apartment. It was very confusing to me. But the good thing was that seeing this apartment made me know for sure that I wanted to live in a smaller building where I really felt like I was city living, and that's what I got. The very last apartment I saw this day was in the Upper West Side, and this apartment was $13.50 flat, rent stabilized, and all utilities included. The only thing you would have to pay for would be Wi-Fi. There was a doorman, an elevator, a laundry room, a bike room. This was a great option. The only downside is that the room was extremely small, and the real estate agent told me that a lot of Columbia students live here, so it's definitely a huge step up from a dorm situation. And maybe a college student wouldn't mind so much that the space was so small. I really seriously considered this apartment because the price was low and it wasn't bad. There was a nice view from the window. Honestly, it would really only fit a bed. Maybe a dresser, maybe a desk, but it was basically a tiny bedroom. I kind of felt like, oh, maybe this is what I should get. Something that's really small and cheap, but I talked to my mom about it, and I just really needed someone to tell me that I deserved more space. One of the main things I struggled with in my apartment search was feeling like I was worth spending this amount of money on myself. So I'm really glad that I had my mom to go to tell me that I really deserve enough space to live. So after my long, busy day of apartment searching, I went back home and I just could not stop thinking about the first apartment that I saw, and it just felt right. I just felt like this is my apartment. I need to just put an application out there and see what happens. I really thought it was gonna be hard to find an apartment that would be willing to take me on as a tenant because I'm currently unemployed, so I don't have pay stubs, proof of employment. I've never put my name on a lease before, so I don't have any previous landlords as a reference. So I felt like I was a really risky tenant and that it would take me a lot of trial and error to find someone willing to take me on. But turns out, thankfully, I was wrong. So that night, I texted the real estate agent. I said, I want to put in an offer or an application. He sent it over to me, and I spent that night and the next morning working on it. While I did previously prepare all of the paperwork that I would need, there was still a lot that I needed to do. I needed to go to a print shop to print out the application to fill it in by hand. There were some forms that my mom as the guarantor needed to do as well. Let's talk about what I actually needed. I needed to send the completed application. I needed to run my credit score, and then I needed a copy of my photo ID, a letter of employment, which I didn't have, pay stubs, which I didn't have, tax returns from 2019 and 2018, the first 2 pages, and my most recent bank statements. And I also needed all of those things from my guarantor as well. So since I was missing some of those really important documents, I decided to write a letter explaining my current situation and why they can trust me to pay the rent. I know personally that I'm trustworthy, but of course these people don't know anything about me. I think this was probably my main selling point. I explained to them that I had a really good credit score, I had enough money in my bank account to cover a year's worth of rent and then some. And of course I also had my mom as a guarantor. And then I just sort of appealed to the emotion of it all. I told them how much I loved the apartment, how much I was so excited to live alone for the first time, and that I would really treat the apartment with care, and that I would be a quiet and respectful neighbor as well. So after all of that, on the day that I sent in the application, I got the apartment. It blew my mind. So then I needed to get bank certified checks of the security deposit, which was 1 month's rent, first month's rent, and then I also had a guarantor deposit, which was another 1 month of rent. So it was definitely a lot of money to put out there initially, but besides obviously the first month of rent, that other money is going to eventually come back to me when I move out of this place. There was a guarantor form that I needed my mom to fill out and get notarized, so that was a little bit stressful. But the very next day, I had the keys in my hand and I was able to go to the apartment. I initially thought I wanted my lease start date to be February 1st, but the real estate agent explained that if I was able to make it January 15th, they would be more likely to pick me. And it ended up working out so great because then I had about 2 weeks to make the move from my Airbnb to my new place, little by little, just a little bit every single day, as opposed to one ridiculously stressful moving day. So I started looking for apartments on January 11th and my lease start date was January 15th. It shocked me. Real estate moves so fast here in the blink of an eye. The first thing I did once I had the keys in my hand is I went to the store and I bought a tape measure so I could measure the entire apartment, and I bought a mini bottle of Moow, which was 20 bucks, and that's definitely over expensive, but this was a big moment for me and I really wanted to celebrate. So I got to my new place, popped my mini bottle of champagne, and celebrated all of my hard work and my leap of faith and my dream come true. The timing was absolutely perfect. This apartment had been vacant since October, and through the Street Easy ad, I was able to see that the most recent tenant paid $2,150 per month. So I got an absolute steal that would have never been this cheap in this area for a place this nice. It has been an absolute dream come true moving into my dream studio in Hell's Kitchen. So if you want to see an empty apartment tour of my apartment, I will link that up above, and I will also link my moving day vlog. I hope I covered everything. I've been sitting here talking for so long. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment down below and I will try to answer that. I hope this is helpful for anybody that is starting their apartment hunt during the pandemic. My advice to you is that now is the time you're gonna get a great deal and a great apartment. It'll definitely take some searching and some trial and error, but now's the time. I'm currently working on organizing and decorating my new apartment, so if you're interested to see videos about that, please subscribe down below. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!